Hello.
Oh, how are you, Kim?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's been forever since you've been on Started from the Bottom.
I know.
I feel like we did our last cherry pick a year ago.
I think it was even longer. I feel like it was like right as I was going back, which was like September of last year.
Crazy.
Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, a long time.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick intro. Kim has been longtime contributor to the pod, Started from the Bottom. Her and I did how many? 52, 50 cherry
So,
pick episodes together.
yeah.
And they were my favorite episodes
The
we
best
did.
part of my week.
Best part. Where we would just talk about pop culture, kids, life, everything. And now, a year ago, Kim took over her family jewelry business,
Yeah.
from your dad, who took it over from his dad, right?
His grandpa. So it was my great grandpa and then my dad and then me.
And then you. And that was a year ago.
That was a year. So I started back September of 2023 and then he officially retired end of February. So it's been like 10 months, 9, 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is so cool because I feel like we've always talked about pop culture, but we haven't really dug into business. I mean, not on the pod. We've talked about it outside of the pod all the time. But it's been really inspiring and fun to watch you build this business, like take it over, learn, build. Um, and I can remember when you and I were talking about something different, and I was telling you how no one knows what they're doing, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, no one knows what they're doing," right?
That was like the biggest, that was such a huge eye-opening thing for me because I mean, we can get into it more. I want to talk about that more, but like my husband also runs his own business with a partner and that was kind of the realization was just like everyone's fumbling through this and I felt so much just like a baby deer just like what, just like going from thing to thing without, you know, I'm sure it still feels that way for everybody. But at the very beginning it's like, oh no, everyone else has it together. It's just me.
Yeah,
You know?
which no one does, is what we realize, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to first conversations. How did this come about? What was happening?
This was it was random. So I mean obviously I grew up working
Okay,
there.
wait. Let's tell everyone what your business is
Okay.
before we go further.
Yeah.
Just so we'll start there.
My business is it's called Duke's Jewelers. It's in Springville, Utah. It's a luxury jewelry business. We sell I mean colored gems, diamonds, engagement rings, that kind of thing. So it's a little different than like just like fashion jewelry. We do have that too, but we're a little bit more in like the luxury market.
And you guys are in a location, or do you also sell online?
We do have a we have a brick and mortar. It's in Springville. We do have a website. Please don't go to it currently. My husband is redesigning it, and I feel like first impressions are huge when it comes to websites, and it very much. And I love my sweet little boomer dad, but it very much looks like something he designed or was it or liked. So
We love him for that. Yes.
we've got a website launch coming probably, I'm hoping like beginning of the year. So you're welcome to browse it. It's not great, but hopefully soon.
Okay.
Hopefully soon doing more online and we can reach a wider audience. Yeah.
Okay, so back to the question. How did it come about that you took over the family business?
Um, weirdly, so I grew up working there. I worked there through college as a salesperson, which is hilarious because I'm terrible at sales. But it's family business. You'd like jump in where you're needed. But then like my dad was never really pushy as far as like who wants this, who's going to do this. I think although he loved it and it was part of him, I mean it's so much a part of him, he I think did feel a lot of pressure to take it over from his grandpa. He started working there when he was 10, so he really was groomed, and I think for that purpose alone he really wanted us to kind of figure out what we wanted to do first. So it was never really something that was even pushed or even considered. I graduated from the U. I worked in retail for years. I was a stay-at-home mom, as you know. And then about a year and a half ago, or I guess almost 2 years now, my dad and I were just talking, and he was like, I'm ready to retire. I have someone that wants to buy it. I don't feel great about him or just in general, like selling it, because this is what I've built. These are my customers. This is my clientele. And so he just was like, I know that you're like getting to the point where you feel like you want to go back to work. Is this something you would consider? And at the time it was very much like, oh yeah, I'd just maybe run it for him and he'd still own it. And then my dad kind of had some health problems come up and just decided he wanted to be totally done. So it was kind of like, okay, we're either going all in or we're not doing this at all. So that was really kind of where it started. So that was May of 2023 is when I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And then I went back to work in September.
And when you went back to work, he was still there, right?
Still there, yeah. So I went back in September. He got diagnosed with a condition called Meniere's disease, which is a condition of the inner ear. It makes you really dizzy and sort of takes some time to get like the right treatment. So it was hard at first because he wasn't there a lot. He just couldn't. I mean, he was like kind of in bed, but he's doing a lot better now. So I would say through like December of last year, December to February, I had him kind of there to sort of guide me a little bit, but yeah.
And then in February, he stepped out of the day-to-day.
Yep, he stepped out. It's so funny because my parents travel a ton, so they're gone a lot, but when he is home, he comes in every day still, and it's the cutest thing. I mean, he does do our watches still. Watch repair is not something any of the rest of us know how to do, so he'll come in and do that. But I was like telling him, I was like, Dad, you don't have to come every day,
yeah,
right? Like, but I think at first it was just hard. Now he comes twice a week, and it's been better. But he's 67, so 57 years of going somewhere almost every day. It's hard to break that habit,
Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay, so what have you learned in the first year, Kim?
I mean, besides that, no one knows what they're doing, and that was in the most vulnerable of moments where I'm having a panic attack on a Saturday night at midnight and just being like, oh, what am I doing? Like, why did I do this? I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I tend to jump into things pretty naively, and it's not that. I think part of that is my confidence that I know I can figure it out, but it's not without its problems, right? It's not without being like, oh yeah, I can totally do that, and then it's like, oh my gosh, can I actually do this?
Right.
So there's that part that just you just kind of are like, everything's going great, everything's going fine, but then all of a sudden you're like, wait, should I have spent an insane amount of money on that marketing campaign that really didn't bring me much revenue? Or should I have should I have continued buying for Christmas inventory that I now have just sitting in my safe because I have no room on my floor? And I mean, those are learning things. Those are things that I'll eventually, I'm sure, figure out, and it'll be fine. But yeah, it's mistakes. It's kind of finding your own niche within a business that's already running and being like, okay, well, I love this and I want to honor this, but I also need to find my own way a little bit. I've also learned.
Give me some examples of how that's happened, because I'm sure there's a lot of legacy and a lot of history and a lot of a lot of that wrapped up in the business from both your dad and the customers, right?
I mean, I still have people coming in that say Mel sold me my ring, and that's my great grandpa. So he left in 1979. So these people are getting rings that are, I mean, these are 80-year-old people coming in that have an expectation of what our business is. We really try and honor that as much as possible. My dad his craft is incredible. He's really amazing at what he does. He's the top rated gemologist in Utah for GIA, which is like our governing board basically of jewelers and gemologists. And so the level of like quality and expertise that we can offer is, people really expect that from us. And so that to me was the thing that was most important to keep consistent. I have a really good team who was there with him. One of my jewelers was there with him. One came on after to like replace him, but just making sure our quality control is really high, making sure people are satisfied with, I mean, repair is such a huge part of the jewelry business that we really need to distinguish our repair versus someone else's. So if someone's bringing a ring in and they're not happy with what it looks like, we got to do what we can to make that better. So yeah, we have 2 quality control checks before everything, and I think so. Legacy wise, that was most important to me. As far as like what I wanted to change a little bit is just kind of bringing in something that was a little more fresh. I mean, with jewelry, there are going to be like the classics that are always going to be there. You know, there are things that are timeless and we love those. But jewelry is also fun. And like so that's kind of what I wanted to bring in, is like a little bit more of like a whimsy, or sort of like something that you could just come in and be like, oh, I wasn't planning on getting anything, but I love that. That's pretty. I want it, you know? So I have tried to sort of like manage price points and kind of make sure that I have something for every level. We do obviously have something that's $50,000, $30,000, but I also have something that's $200, $250, you know, something like that. So we just want to make sure that we can like appeal to everyone as opposed to just like a certain demographic.
Yeah. And do you feel like, so wait, are you good at making jewelry?
I'm trained. I used to size, I used to repair. I haven't done it in such a long time that I'm a little nervous about it. Things have definitely changed. Like when I was doing stuff for my dad, it was like I was sizing with a torch, and now everything's done with like laser welders. So it's a lot more like precise, a lot more. It's easier to. It's just easier to work with. A torch is like, you just never, it could be too hot, you could melt things. It's like, so I would love to sort of learn more, but no, I'm the back end, I'm the admin, I'm the one paying all the bills and like doing all this stuff. Right. So I'm not, but yeah, I wish I could make jewelry. I would like to make some more. So
one day, right?
Yeah, one day when I got some time on my hands.
Because now you have 3 kids that are so busy.
Yeah.
And then you're working full time. Tell me about the transition into that.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough, and it's still tough. I think for a long time I thought I could be everything for everyone, both my kids and for my employees, and that's just not going to be possible. I had to set up boundaries on both sides, and even this morning, like Colette, she has dance today at like 3:30, and she prefers me to take her because it's our time together. It's like it's 20 minutes away. We get to sit and chat, and she tells me about her day. And she asked like, who's taking me today, and I was like, you know, it's either going to be me or it's going to be Hannah. I can't tell you, and I'm not going to I can't also like commit to it because I just don't know. And so that's been hard. My youngest was in first year of preschool when I went back. So it's probably been hardest for him because he was so much younger than the other kids. It was really just like Marcus and I just palling around all the time. So the change for him was probably the biggest. My older girls were in school, so it was like not that. Yeah, I mean, there are things for sure. It's made my kids more independent, which I've loved because I can't pick up their slack. If they forget their backpack, they don't have a backpack, right. You know, it's or whatever. So there have been some benefits, but I think it's just been an interesting transition because it's like I want to give everything to every single person every single day, but I just can't. It's I mean, it's something that we all talk about. There is no balance. It's just finding what works and what you can do, like, just to survive, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's also it's just like when your kids are babies, like you think you have it under control and then school lets out,
Yeah.
or you have Thanksgiving break, or like something throws a wrench in it and you're like, well, back to the drawing board.
Well, and meanwhile, like, I took Marcus to preschool the other day. I show up and there's no one in the drop-off line. And I'm like, oh my gosh, does he not have school today? Like, I used to feel like I was on top of things. I used to feel like I could put things in my calendar, or I could sometimes fudge it a little bit and not, and I'd still remember. I'm not remembering something that I look and see, like, look at my calendar at 9 a.m. and it's at 11:30, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the mental load is tough. The mental load of being a mom is tough. The mental load of being, like, working is tough. And then together, that's, you know, it's just, you're divided, your time's divided. And I wouldn't change it. I really wouldn't. Like, I grew up working, or my mom worked. I worked in, you know, a bunch of different stuff, like, before I decided to stay home, and that was never our plan. But it worked out for us, and it made sense. But going back is tough. It's tough mentally, it's tough physically. You just, like, forget that there are all these things, and I think even that time away, I mean, I was out of the work field for 8 years, and my confidence in myself as a working person, was low, because I was like, I knew I was good at being a mom. I knew I was good at doing that. And then all of a sudden, here's this other thing. And I'm just like, whoa.
How did you get that confidence back?
I think it's been, I mean, there are still moments when it's not. I'm not going to lie and say that every day I feel totally confident. I am getting it back every single day. I do feel like making the right choice and making the wrong choices gives me confidence, to be honest. It's just in the doing. It's just in the being like, you know, that moment when you're like, everything around you is a disaster. Like my room currently looks like a dumpster. But yeah, there's that moment when you're like, I just gotta buckle down and do it. And you just, like, it just becomes your focus, and you just are like, okay, I'm just gonna do this thing. I'm gonna start here. I may only have 20 minutes, but let me do that. And I think that's part of how my confidence grew, is I just was like, you know what? You're not feeling confident, get to work. Yeah. You're not feeling like you're not knowing, you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Let's write a list of the things that would make you feel more comfortable and make you feel like you at least had some control or had some idea. You know what I mean? So I think that's been really good for me, to just kind of be like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. I mean, I've been running Freshly Picked for 15 years now. Yeah. And almost 16. And I feel like I still will go through phases of this when I level up in my business, or I level up with a new skill, or I learn something new or whatever, where I'm like, shoot, I know nothing. But I have 2 mantras that I kind of live by during those times. And one is success sits on the other side of the thing you're avoiding. And I love that one, especially if that one I use for, like, little tasks and, like, things that I don't want to get done that are sometimes busy work or stuff like that. And then the other one that I tell myself all the time is nothing will make you feel better than doing the work. Because I'll, like, jump on TikTok or read a book or go to the gym, or sometimes I'll do anything to avoid what I actually need to do to get done. And then I do it and I'm like, that took me 2 seconds. Why did I avoid it for so long? And so those are, like, the 2 mantras that I'm always repeating to myself, depending on, like, what the scenario is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you just got to buckle down and do it. And then whether you're successful or not, like that's almost a byproduct of just getting the work done,
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, that's been something I've thought about a lot too, is like, what is success really? And like, I mean, that's just, we can existential, whatever,
No, I'd love
all
to
day long.
hear it. What have you decided?
I don't have an answer, but I think for so long I was like, so and so successful or so and so successful. And, and I'm like, okay, well, what am I saying? Like, what makes them successful, you know, and what's going to make me feel successful.
Right.
So that's really something that I've had to kind of dig deep a little bit. I will say I am in therapy. I started therapy. It's helped a lot.
Yeah.
And one of our mutual friends, we were at lunch together. I was with Shelly like a few months ago, and she was like, don't you feel like they need like therapists for like business people, like just specifically? And I'm like, yeah, it would be nice to have like the personal side, and then also just like, I can tell you all my work problems and someone can like solve that. But yeah. I mean, talking to my husband has been really good. He's good at keeping me calm when he's good. I would say we're both good in like a crisis, but when I'm in crisis mode, he's good at pulling me out of it. You know, he's good at being like, okay, what do we need? Like, what are you actually feeling? And then let's do that. Right. I mean, that was one of the ways I figured out the listing, is like, I just was like crying in like the fetal position on my bed. And it was the same day that he was like, no one knows what they're doing. But he was like, what do you feel like? You keep saying you don't know anything, but like, what do you want to know? Like, let's write that out. What would make you feel like you could say that you knew? And that was, it's been probably 4 or 5 months, and actually just writing those out helped me to like process what it was that I was feeling inadequate in, you know, just to kind of be like, okay, I want to know the inside and outside of processes. I just like to know how things work. And so that was my next thing. We were getting ready for like, I mean, in retail, Christmas, you're prepared in June, sometimes earlier. So that was really hard for me to like, I am a procrastinator. I tend to like line things up in my list as to what they need to be. So for me to think about Christmas in April, May, June was tough, but that was one thing too, is I was like, okay, I want to talk to my dad and see everything he did for the holidays. I want to write it out word for word, and then I'm going to go through every single thing and be like, should I do that? Could I do more? Could I do less? You know, or whatever. How do I want to change what he's doing? So yeah, I think it was really good for me to kind of, and that's the thing. I know this about myself. I know that lists are good for me. I know that goal setting is good for me, because I can ignore a goal that I have in my brain for years. You know, I can literally, as long as I've never said it out loud or written it down, it doesn't exist, because I can want something, but I won't hold myself accountable until it's like out, you know? And so just kind of, I guess, sort of really like physically writing things out, enumerating what I was wanting, what my goals were, where I want to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, and how I would get there, was really helpful, I think.
I know you've watched Davis build his business, Davis and JP. Did I call him David? Oh my gosh, Davis. You've watched Davis build his business. Kim's husband. They have a really cool design house down in Provo, and they do big clients, small clients, everything in between. But really noteworthy. And so is it nice to have kind of a built-in mentor in that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's been nice to see. It's been nice also just because we can commiserate too, you know, like obviously my dad was a small business owner, my mom was a nurse, so working for someone where you collect a paycheck and go home, amazing, incredible, but also just a totally different beast, right?
Yeah.
So just having him to be like on his days where he has something wrong with a client, hearing his problems and like how they're going to problem solve, or yeah, I mean, it's just so good to have someone on my, like, so close. He's obviously my spouse, my best friend, someone I can just be my total, like, most vulnerable, ugly self, that can also be like, I know what you're going through.
Right.
And this is how you know, and this is how, this is, if we were in this situation, this is what we would do. But what do you want to do? You know? So having someone to talk through it with, that slugs through, you know, it helped. It has helped a lot. Yeah.
Right. And you've seen all the transitions, all the highs, all the lows, like you've been there with him.
Yeah.
And so it's someone you can trust. Yeah.
Yeah. The blueprint of, like, when he started building Actual Source, the out, I mean, that's why I stayed home. He was working, I don't know, 100+ hours a week. They were sometimes sleeping there. Just knowing, like, physically seeing the work that goes into owning your own business has helped a ton, because it like, I do say I jumped into this naively and maybe a little bit, but I also did know what it took. I watched my dad do it for, you know, the past, my whole life, 38 years or whatever, and I've seen my husband do it, and so even though I maybe didn't have all the answers, I knew I had a blueprint of, like, what it took, and I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you almost do have to go into, what do they say? Like, you get married with your eyes half closed. Like, you kind of are like,
Davis and I always joke that next time we get married, it'll be for money.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I just feel like even if you know it goes into a business, you still have to kind of be like, that's fine, you know, that's all, like, because you've seen the backside of it,
Yeah.
you know.
But you
And
also have the benefits too, you know, like,
yeah.
there's,
I mean, how many times have I said I'll never start another business, and then here I am with more businesses? Like, it's just like,
it's kind of, I mean, we used to see each other every week. Obviously, we were on the pod.
yeah.
Now we see each other every couple months. And so it is like, what business are you starting now? You know, what do you got next?
Yeah, well, I just can't help myself, but I do feel like because I've started Freshly Picked and I've grown Freshly Picked and the success that we have right now, I'm able to, like, start my next businesses not at the ground floor, but like on the 34th floor. I'm in New York, so I'm making elevator metaphors, but like, it's just easier once you've already been in it. And I feel like even with Davis and your dad, like, you came into it in such a better place than if you would have started it from the ground up, I think.
And that is something that I 100% would credit to my dad, honestly. It's just that, like, I mean, in some ways I did, obviously I bought the business from him, but in some ways I'm a little Nepo baby. And, you know, like, I came into this.
I'm gonna get you a shirt.
I should.
You're like Haley Bieber.
Lucky me. But in some ways, I did come into a business that was already running, already successful. My dad was partially retired for probably the last 5 years. He was just kind of waiting for my mom to hit retirement to fully step away. But it really could run without me. It could stay at the same level, you know. And so that is one thing that, when I'm having sort of a thing, I'm like, wait, I can take myself out of this and it'll be great. The only place we can go is up. And how do I want to go up? So I am honest. I mean, that is really the luckiest part of me stepping into this, is that over, I don't know, I guess he was there, what, 79 to 24, that's 45 years. So over his 45 years, he built it from something that was just this kind of really small little place to a huge business, a very successful business. Yeah.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge in the last year? Or challenges? You don't have to pick just one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously what comes to mind is really just like self-doubt and confidence, and then also transitioning from my kids, which we've already talked about. But I think there are challenges too, in being a boss. I think I didn't realize the amount of I mean, I love the people I work with. We are a small, little, tight-knit family, and I feel responsible for them. I feel responsible for their livelihoods and being able to, like, I want to provide for them. And so that was something that I didn't see going in. I didn't realize that that would be a challenge, but it is something that I'm like, I want to provide for these people too. I want to make sure this is good for them. So there's been, like, just being a boss, being over employees. I tend to be, I mean, when I'm talking to you, we're close. Things flow freely, but I'm an introvert for sure. It doesn't come naturally for me to sort of step into my boss mode, I guess, and kind of be like, hey, we can't do that. Like, I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. However, I've learned that, like, people are like, when I'm nice about it, it doesn't change. When I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine, but just like do this next time, that doesn't resonate, and I'm not saying that's the fault of the people that I'm telling to, but it's like, sometimes you do need to be harsh. You do need to be like, hey, this isn't okay. There will be consequences if this happens again, and it's hard for me to kind of do that, I think.
Yeah, I'm a pleaser.
Yeah,
That's my fatal flaw. Yeah. But my CRO, Ashley, a few weeks ago, she was like, I think you don't tell people stuff sometimes because you don't want to hurt their feelings, or you just want to make them happy. And she's like, I don't think it's doing you any favors. And I was like, ugh. But also, thank you for that feedback, because that's actually what I needed to hear.
And the person who hurts is you, because it's like, then you still continue like having that same problem, and it's
sure. And I was sitting on the board for like 3 years, so I wasn't actually in the day-to-day. So I feel like at the board level, you just need to be supportive and kind and encouraging, and when you're operating, it just comes in as a different way. Like, you actually need to be directive and direct and give people like news that they may or may not like, or challenge them. And so it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me, because I've only been back a year. I feel like we commiserated last year because we both kind of started back around the same time. But I've had to relearn how to manage people. Plus, I feel like every 5 years you get a new culture of workforce. Like, people come to the job with set expectations, or how, like, preconceived notions of how they want a boss to be.
Totally.
And so you kind of, you have to be flexible and firm and all of those things. Yeah.
I think too, and we talked about this at the management thing that you did last, was that January or whatever, that I came to, but the best managers and bosses I've ever had, they had my back, they were supportive, but they weren't afraid to tell me how it was. They weren't afraid of that constructive criticism. They weren't mean. It wasn't targeted or mean-spirited. It was just like, hey, this is not, like, we're going to do it this way, but then also when I needed them, they had my back 100%, and so that, I think that was something that I really had to kind of remember, is be like, okay, who were my best managers? I worked for Costco for almost a decade, doing a bunch of different things, and in that retail space, and it's like, where did I feel most supported? Where did I feel like I could do my job, but I also was being pushed? Because I think that is like a big, especially in retail, that's a big thing that we're looking for. Growth is what we want, right? So but you want to be able to allow these people to do their job in a way that they feel comfortable and not micromanaged, but also supported and, you know, pushed a little bit. So I would say jumping into a management role has been challenging, just because I have done it before, but in a much different situation, and with more tiers above me. This was me at the very top.
Yeah.
You know, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So figuring out, I'm still figuring that out. Like, I'm currently trying to figure that out, but it is something that I feel like has gotten so much better, and will continue to as I keep going. But yeah,
I mean, I want to hear, I'm going to tell you, but I want to hear what you've learned, what, like, your biggest lesson about being a good manager in the past year, because this is mine. I feel like what's been helpful for me is to really get to know the people that I'm managing.
Yeah.
And then where their career aspirations and the business success intersects, and trying to align those. And if their career aspirations are outside of business success, then managing them out or helping them see that. But the people that I feel like are the most successful, and the people that I'm the most successful managing, is understanding, like, what do they want? What are they trying to achieve in their life? How can I help them get there? And then me communicating very clearly, actually, here's where the business needs you. And then aligning their career goals and aspirations with the business success.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it for me, for sure. I think another thing is, I mean, we're a small team. There's only 9 of us total, maybe 8. I can't remember. But figuring out the strengths of each one has been something that I've really tried to do over the last year, to be like, okay, like, just so I can, like, place them in a spot that gives them the most success, if that makes sense. So, like, you know, I have someone that's extremely talented, like an extremely talented artist, and so she's really good at sort of coming up with these custom pieces. And so being able to kind of facilitate her artistry in a way that, like, benefits obviously my customer, who comes in just being like, well, I sort of want it to look like this, and here's a picture from 50 years ago, but it's blurry and I don't actually know, but you know, so facilitating, obviously making it better for them, but then making it so that she likes what she's doing, you know. Being able to kind of see, like, you know, some people want more of, like, they want to be more forward facing, some people maybe want to be more administrative, and how can I use that skill to my advantage, because I'm overrun. I don't have time to do all the things that I need to get done, but being able to hand some, like, one of those tasks off to somebody else can help, you know what I mean? So I think that's what I've tried to do most this year. I think going into next year, I have a few different things but yes, I think it's all getting to know your team better, getting to know what they're interested in, where they want to be, and trying to facilitate that. I mean, with being in jewelry, there's so many, if they want to go further, there's so many places we can go, and there's, like, you could change from sales, you could change into a just jewelry, like, into someone who's actually fabricating and casting, and just kind of finding those things out. So yeah, I think that's sort of where we're at right now. But
okay, I have another question, sorry.
Yeah.
Have you learned any good lessons this week?
This week specifically?
Or in the last month? I know we just got through Black Friday.
Yeah, okay. Well, we saw each other Saturday, so I kind of did tell you this, but I think taking myself out of the equation is the lesson that I keep learning, and I need to keep remembering. It always feels, I mean, this is new for me. You gotta realize that this is, like, these are firsts. This was my first Black Friday in charge. This is my first Christmas season. You know, like, these are all firsts, but there's so much of me that's like anticipating these big moments, these big sales, and being like, am I the difference? Am I the reason this is not going to succeed this year? Am I going to, like, or whatever? And I need to take myself out of the equation. I need to realize that it is not, success is our whole team together. I'm not the one that's making this successful. My dad didn't make this successful on his own. It took a team for him too. And so I think so much of the time I internalize things and I sort of keep them. I mean, I don't love to share my insecurities. Who does, but for me to be like, for me to even sort of think that I am sure, I play a part in the success, but I feel like sometimes I'm overinflating my role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for good or bad, right? Like the reason it was successful or the reason it failed, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I mean, we did have an estate sale in September that we didn't hit our goal, and that sucks, but that wasn't on me. And it just like it wasn't on one of my sales team or my jewelers or whoever. And same in success. We had a great Black Friday. We hit our goals. We did what we wanted to do. And I need to remember that and just be like, you know what? It's not me. It's all of us
Sure.
together. It's,
Sure. And whenever we either meet or don't meet a goal, I immediately want to have a postmortem and dig into it and say, okay, what was different?
Yeah.
Whether it was good or bad, because if it's good, then let's replicate it and let's do more of that. And if it was bad, let's figure out what happened. And, for year over year sales, I always have like 3 places that I start, which is traffic, conversion rate, and AOV. And usually it's between traffic and AOV, because when you're having a sell, conversion is there. So you don't really need to worry about that. So it's like, okay, did we meet the same traffic we had last year? Is it sitting there? Or is it that our AOV is higher or lower? And then usually from those 3 things, tapping into those 3 things, I can almost always figure out what was different. Sure. And then dig in till your heart's content. I mean, you can go to the 10th degree on those things. And like, what did we do? We actually, you gave us such a good, you told me one thing, and I don't even know if you remember telling me this, but we utilized it in our business immediately.
I would like to know.
Yeah, no, it was really smart. So you said, oh, we are sending thank you cards and gift cards to our top buyers from this last year.
Yeah.
And immediately I called my team and I'm like, hey, let's do this. So they went and they tiered out our top buyers. So like a certain tier got $100 gift certificate, the next tier got 50, and the next tier got 25. And it was just like, plus a handwritten thank you note for being for coming and shopping at Freshly Picked this year. Yeah. And so like I thought that was genius. We immediately did it. We had it done by end of week, and I really feel like what a nice touch for the customers that really feel like, yeah. I'm expecting my personalized thank you note from Skims actually soon.
Yeah, we're probably a top purchaser for sure
from Amazon.
Yeah. Come on.
But I think like I love that you and I, like, we've been friends forever. We talk friends, we talk family, we talk everything, but I've really, really enjoyed talking business with you in the last year in the few amounts of times that we have, because I love the dichotomy of where we're at with our businesses. I mean, yours is older than mine, but you're just starting. Mine is older than yours, and I'm jumping back in. Like, we have like this push and pull, and I feel like I learn something from you every time, and it's so cool.
I love that. I feel the same way. I mean, for me, it feels like I'm talking to the mastermind, but I'm glad that there was something that I could give you.
Always, you always do. It's so great. Okay, we're wrapping up now. Kim, where can everyone find you? You're on Duke's Jewelry right now.
Duke's Jewelers Utah is my is the business. I'm K Narupe, which is hard. KNGARUPE. That's my last name. But yeah, Yeah, come find us. I mean, we're in, so as far as our brick and mortar, it's 220 South Main Street in Springville. We love custom projects. We love people to just be like, hey, I just had an idea. Please bring all your ideas. Like, that is the funnest part of my job, is just being like, okay, yeah, I've never seen that before. Let's do it. Let's figure it out. And we'll figure it out for you. So if you've ever wanted anything, bring it in.
I was actually thinking I'm bringing in my engagement ring and get it redone.
Yeah, I mean, did I tell you that I bought myself my own engagement ring this year without?
Was it the yellow one you were wearing the other night?
Yeah, can you see
it's so pretty. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love my original engagement ring. It's sentimental, but I just was like, I'm like, I want something different. And Davis didn't notice for like probably a month afterwards. He was like, wait, where'd you get that ring? Where's your other ring? And I was like, oh, it's, just this. It's old now at this point.
It's 4 weeks old. You're late, Davis. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna bring it in. I have an idea. Yeah. I'm gonna come and get something done. Well, thanks for taking the time, Kim. You're the best. We got to start back up cherry pick.
Yeah, whenever. I mean, I'm always free Sundays, so we got it.
Oh, you guys, we're gonna do it. We're gonna add it to the rotation in here. Okay, before we leave, I just wanted to touch on real quick. So I am starting back up my masterminds. I think I mentioned this last week. We are starting in January. I'm doing it with my CRO, Ashley, and we're doing it differently this time. We're doing 6 months, 2 classes a month. They're going to be nighttime Zooms, so anyone can join. I will link to the website in my stories, but what we're trying to do is, I know this year has been tricky for businesses, not only for advertising dollars, but there's so much that's going into a business right now. I know a lot of people who are feeling like their numbers are down. And so we're going to go over everything, your numbers, how to get people to the site, product development, hiring, everything. So I will link to that at the end of this and share that.
Can I put
a
little plug in for this real quick?
Yes, I would love it.
So listening to Susan and Ashley together is like, there's nothing better. So I 100% would want to be a part of this, but just the amount of, I don't know, I've talked to you two together a few times, and just like how you play off each other, but then Ashley just is so knowledgeable and just has the numbers to back everything up. I'm so bad at the numbers part. I mean, I can tell you a statistic, I probably made it up on the spot, you know what I mean? But she has the data to back that up, and it is just awe-inspiring. And anyway, I'm excited for you guys. I think that's
she is a yin to my yang. We complement each other's strengths in this way that it's never happened with me before, and it's really fun. Yeah. And so we've been working on the the schedule and the curriculum, and every class you're going to be able to take exactly what you learn and go implement into your business in an easy, smart way and make money just from being there. So it'll be great. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kim. You're the best.
See you later. Have fun.
Okay, bye.